Do you know, the really funny thing was, when we turned up in Tenerife, I think was our first day. It was. It's been nearly 10 years, since we've made a ball film. It felt like we'd literally finished last week, and here we were again. It was the most bizarre thing, and it was lovely. We had a lot of fun on this film. It was hard work, and we did a lot of travelling, and there were a lot of problems to solve. But it was fun and exhilarating, and as ever. When you make a film, you want around you your people you can trust and people who you want to be in a trench with, when it's really intense and the pressure's on. And there's no better colleague than Matt, no better friend and colleague. It was absolutely exciting to see suddenly, there's Jason Bourne. You know what I mean? He's back. And he has a look when he does Jason Bourne. It's a kind of intensity about him and a physicality. So that was really exciting. But then over the next few days, as I say, I could see this sort of different colours to him. There was a sort of more humanity to the character, I think, and he kind of brought a quality of vulnerability mixed with that kind of incredible physical skill set, and it just made it inspiring to come to work every day. It's a very special franchise to me, obviously, and I think it's very well loved because it is, in those sort of mainstream movies, he's a slightly different character. He's a unique character. Jason Bourne isn't a superhero. He doesn't wear a cape and a mask. He's not one of those kind of guys. He's just an ordinary man, And I think when people watch Jason Bourne, they can imagine how they might react in those situations, in those circumstances. And when you see him thinking his way through and coming up with a plan and executing his plan, that's incredibly exciting. But I think it's not just that, it's the vulnerability of the character, the humanity of the character, and the fact that he's in many ways lost and lonely and vulnerable and on his own and an outsider, but yet he lives by his own moral code in a fallen world, And I think that combination makes him an incredibly a much loved character. People really relate. Everyone can relate to that character. Someone who rejects the system, but yet has loyalty in his heart. That's the point. It's not that he rejects the system and wants to break it down. He's really the most loyal, patriotic character born. He just views the world as fallen, and his destiny is always to have to try and find ways to put it right as best he can. That's great. He's trapped in guilt and remorse, and he can't go forward with his life, and yet he doesn't want to go backwards. And so he's condemned to sort of act out this brutality and this pain, and one day he sees, out of the corner of his eye, Nicky Parsons. And obviously Nicky Parsons and he have a bond. They are both runaways. They're both outlaws. And in our imagining, they have seen each other from time to time over the last 10 or 12 years. They must have a code, if they're really in trouble, they can find each other. But the fact that she's come means there's got to be something significant. It's not like they meet every week or something. Something's obviously wrong. And they arrange to meet in Syntagma Square in the centre of Athens. And there she tells him that she's hacked the agency. So she's kind of gone on a different road. She's become much more sort of politically active. Her view is you can't just sit there and, live out your life on the run. You got to turn and fight the enemy. And so she's teamed up with a group of hackers, and she's hacked the agency, and she's got all the Black Ops files and found out what's going on now, and also she's found something that really interests Bourne, and she brings it to him, and really that's what starts our story. You can remember everything as you understand it, but remembering everything about your past doesn't necessarily mean you know everything. There may be things that you never knew. And that's really what this Bourne story revolves around. It's not about what Bourne remembers, it's about what he never knew or never understood. So there's an event in the past that had profound importance to him, that led him to volunteer for Treadstone in the first place, because that's really where we left the story. Where we left the story in Ultimatum was he discovered that he had not been compelled to join the Treadstone program. He'd actually chosen, he'd actively chosen and himself volunteered for the program. So that was our starting point. And what he learns in this film is that the circumstances which led him to volunteer were not as he thought they were. They were actually, as he says later in the film, I volunteered because of a lie. So he discovers that which he believed that he remembered was not the truth. There's a truth that was hidden from him, and that's what he discovers in this film.
Independence Day Resurgence has been given a $200 million budget, $125 million more than Independence Day 1, which had a $75 million budget and had a box office result of more than $800 million, making it the highest grossing movie of 1996. Click here for more cool videos. Thanks for watching.